Episode 37. Welcome to the Carnival. A word to the wise. Storyville Part 2. Hello, my name is Summer, and this is Paying for It.
I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come on. I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come on. I'm gonna turn back my mattress and let you all my springs. I want you to find me, daddy, till the bell do ring. Oh, daddy, want you to shade and dry.
Thank you for being here for episode 37, Storyville Part 2. I am very excited. I hope you are too. Hello, friends. Thank you for being here for my next edition into Storyville. Today's episode, we are going to explore some of the powerful men within Storyville, why they were important to the women of Storyville. We will also be exploring blue books and getting a glimpse of Carnival season. For this episode, I used the original book that I was using for the last two episodes by Al Rose, Storyville, New Orleans, being an authentic illustration account of the notorious red light district. Still a mouthful. I used this, but the main source I used for this episode was actually a guidebook to sin by Pamela D. Arceneaux. I am really bad at pronouncing names, and that one's a hard one, so I will link it down below. But yeah, I use this majority of my source, and this book is like a prized possession of mine. It's beautiful. If you take the book cover sleeve off, it's gorgeous inside. And yeah, I'm quite obsessed with this book. So I finally got to put it to good use and use it for this episode. And I'm very excited to bring it alive. So those are the two sources that I used for today's episode. And yeah, so if you're interested in learning more, I highly suggest you check them out. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about those. Let me set these down. Also, please consider liking, following, and subscribing. You know, all the things you do, whatever platform you may be joining us on or listening on. It really helps out paying for it. It helps out me. And yeah, I hope you, if you're enjoying this story, this series, yeah, I highly suggest you liking. It really helps out, and plus this series of Storyville is only going to get spicier and more interesting, so I wouldn't want you missing out on any of it. But before we get into all of that, how are you? How have you been? It's been a while, and I think that's okay because I've been working really hard on these episodes, and honestly, the writing process takes me a long time. I want them perfect, and I'm really trying to hone in those writing skills, and it takes a minute. I hope you've had a lovely Valentine's Day, if that is something you are into. But if not, I hope you had a great day living the life you want to live, doing whatever it is that you love to do. I had to work Valentine's Day, but that following Saturday, I went and seen Lisa Frankenstein, and I absolutely loved it. Oh my God, I really loved it. It was campy and funny. It was set in the 80s, and it was really just a vibe. So if that sounds something like you might be interested in, I would highly, highly suggest checking it out. I think you might enjoy it. And yeah, it was very good and very funny. Today I'm filming a bit early. I normally film a little bit early, but yeah, I have to like get this done by a certain time because we randomly got Joe Rogan stand-up tickets at his comedy mothership in Austin for tonight. So my boyfriend, he has a half day at work. I happened to have the day off, so it worked out very nicely. He has a half day at work, and once he's done, we're heading to Austin and we're going to go see Joe Rogan and some of his friends do stand-up comedy. And we are comedy girlies now, I guess. I'm very excited, and this is something we've been wanting to, like, we've been trying to catch Joe Rogan for a while. So it's exciting. We're excited, and we're excited just to go back to Austin. I kind of really dig Austin. I'm looking forward to getting some pizza and going back to that margarita place with some spicy margaritas, and they had a delicious Modelo queso that was just to die for, and I really liked it. So we're gonna spend the day in Austin and just kind of vibe out and go check out some comedy and just all that good stuff. What else have I been up to? Not much, really, just working, writing, and I started my booktube again, so I've been into that, and I've been reading a lot of reading. I just read all of the Ali Hazelwood's. So if you're a romance type of person, you might know who she is. But I just read pretty much all of her books, or all of her adult romance books. And then that included her new release, Bride, that came out this month. And let me tell you, I finished that on Saturday night. Like, we got home from the movies. We did smoked margaritas because I got a smoker kit for Valentine's Day. And then I sat down and started reading. And then I realized, oh, I'm in this book. This book has got me by a chokehold, and I don't think I'm going to be able to put it down. And so about like 2 a.m., I was like, ooh, you girls stayed up late tonight. Even though I knew I had to be at work at 9 a.m. the next morning, I was like, you know what? We're an adult. We can do this. We're making this decision. So did I stay up until 4 a.m.? Yes, I did. Stayed up until about 4 a.m. and then I finished the book, and it was amazing. 5 stars. Very good. It was like a romance between a vampire and a werewolf, and it threw me back to my nostalgic days, and I just was here for it. Okay, I was living for it. And yeah, so I highly suggest if that's something you are into, check it out. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. All of her romances were really good. So, you know, I'm putting you on to a new author. If it's new to you, maybe it's not. Maybe you've already been onto her, because I'm kind of late to her game anyways. So yeah. But yeah, that's really kind of all we've been up to. We did do smoked margaritas on Saturday, and whoo, boy, I love a smoky cocktail. I tried to do spicy smoky cocktails, but my simple syrup did not come out spicy. But the cocktails in general were still very good. So if you're someone who is into like building cocktails or making cocktails, I highly suggest you looking into a smoker. And it's not just for whiskey, so you don't have to feel as if you don't get to use one just because you're not a whiskey type of gal. So let's get into it, shall we? I think we shall. In order to navigate safely throughout Storyville, you should get your hands on a guidebook, especially if you are planning on going during Carnival season. Attempt to get yourself in the good graces with someone who knows the district and the ins and outs of it. Someone who lives in the gray area between good and bad. Someone who knows how to be in the world of upper and proper society, but also knows how to navigate the sinful side of the world. So with that, you know what time it is. Grab yourself a cocktail, a mocktail, a coffee, whatever you fancy. Today, I've just got a coffee. Yes. It kind of looks a little flat because I made it a little bit ago, but it is a toasted marshmallow milked coffee. So iced coffee. I said milked coffee, iced. I think most coffees have milk in it. Wow. Anyways, cheers. And let me introduce you to Tom Anderson. So what do you need to know about Tom? All right. I'll tell you what you need to know about him while we head back. He pretty much runs this place. There's a reason he's called the mayor of Storyville. He grew up poor and not much is known about him and his early life. However, it is said that he was born November 22nd, 1858, to a father that possibly was Scottish and his mother possibly Irish. So poor immigrants for the time, not uncommon. His family or birthday, I guess it doesn't really matter to his overall story and who Tom Anderson comes to be. What's important is what led him to become a main player to Storyville. And it started with him as a boy hawking newspapers. And while he did a lot of watching. When the cops needed to know what was up, they would come to Tom. Tom would let them know about petty thieves and random criminals. He was a stool pigeon for them. Or what do you guys call it nowadays? An informant. That was his main job, hawking the Daily Picayune and watching. But that was his morning job. After hours, young Tom would deliver cocaine and heroin to the brothels around town. He would go to the local drugstores, pick up the goods for the likes of Kate Townsend and Hattie Hamilton, and deliver it back. Hi, Summer here. Yeah, hello. Sorry to interrupt, but heroin and cocaine at the local drugstores? If that doesn't slap you in the face with the fact that this was a way different time period, like, okay, I get it. We call them drugstores for a reason, but when I read that, I was like, holy shit. Holy shit. Sorry. Anyways, back to the tour. Listen, Tom didn't have any formal education. He was poor, and that was and is still a luxury in this world. However, he was known to have a keen eye. Clearly, look around. He owns several of these locations. He's good with numbers, and that helps him land a good job as a bookkeeper with an insurance oil company. Eventually, Tom will move on and go to work for the Louisiana Lottery Company. He's also going to get married in 1880. He and his wife Emma weren't married long when they had a baby girl named Irene. Now, tragedy is going to strike the family about a year later, and Emma gets sick and passes away from typhoid. Tom, after this loss of his wife, gives his daughter up to St. Vincent's Infant Asylum. Hi, here I am, Summer again, starting to poke into the story, but what the fuck is that? Well, I looked it up for us. Basically, Vincent's Infant Asylum was built as a Catholic institution for unwanted infants. So if you were thinking he was a great dude, not so much in this sense. But was he a terrible guy? Well, you'll just have to make up your own mind about him in the end. Now, back to Storyville you go. Through his work with the Louisiana lottery system, he starts making political connections. He will end up donating to a variety of political charities. These events will put on, of course, by the influential men's club in New Orleans. You know, the rich white men's club. He wanted in. Now, see, he never grew out of having connections to the police, and now having political connections, this allows him to open up his first restaurant and bar, the Asteroids Club on North Rampart Street. This was opened in 1882. And Tom did what Tom did best. He towed the line between good and villain. The Asteroids Club became a place where his newly found upper scale friends could mingle and make under the table deals with the underworld types he grew up around. They would go to the Asteroids to discuss payoffs and payments for deals, jobs, and protections they may provide. So this was a gray club in its own right. All right, so I guess I should also tell you about Bill Strove. He's a good friend and business partner of Tom Anderson's. If you thought Tom's beginning life was a mystery to history, well, Bill's is even more so. Not a lot is really known about Billy, but I'll tell you what I know, and most importantly, what you need to know about him. Born William Billy Strove sometime in 1872, and pretty much all of his early years are lost to history. He gets his start and makes connections throughout New Orleans because he is a police reporter for the New Orleans Daily. Knowing what we know about Tom and his relationship with the police, it's pretty safe to assume that Tom and Billy were connected through their work with the police. They officially meet in 1895. Eventually, though, a friendship blooms between the two, and this will lead them into a new business opportunity. This leads us to 1897, when Tom and Billy will open up Fair Play Saloon. Tom and Billy will remain lifelong business partners and friends, and this will be one of their first, but not last, business adventures together. This saloon was located within the soon-to-be bound legal red light district of New Orleans. Although this was a year prior to the actual district opening, the area, though, was already full of vice. And this was a hotspot for travelers, so of course it was kind of an instant hit. It's also safe to assume that the idea of Storyville was already being talked about and mapped out at the time. So Tom and Billy were just getting ready for what was to come. It's also safe to assume that Tom and Billy's connections with the police and political parties, that they had some inside knowledge of what was to come with Storyville and where it was going to be placed, making it make sense on why they chose this area for their new business. This is going to give Billy and Tom, but really Tom, the upper hand to really be able to come into the district and make it his own. There is a reason they call it Anderson County after all, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to Billy. Billy is more of a silent business partner. He is much more private, as that is why not a lot is known about his doings. However, even though he is private and quiet, and what we know about Storyville, his writing skills will come into handy in the future. For now, though, that is all you need to know about Billy. We will cross paths with him again shortly. Tom knows how to walk in both worlds. the one of vice and the one of straight-laced proper men. I mean, he is a white man, known to be decent on the eyes, solidly built, with reddish blonde hair and blue eyes. At the time of the affair, Tom was nearing 40, so his hair was turning silver. So you would call him today a silver fox. Sporting a luxurious mustache too. People really went wild for her back in the day. So he was known to be a handsome, handsome dude. So about a year and a half into Tom and Billy's fair game saloon, he will meet a woman within the district that he becomes quite infatuated with. And that would be Jose Arlington. She is an infamous madam around here who ran her brothel at 172 Custom House Street. Tom and Jose meet. They go on to have an affair. It is said that he was a frequent visitor of the Arlington. Their relationship, whatever that may have involved, leads Tom to change the name of his saloon to the Arlington Annex. Billy is said to be the manager of the saloon. In fact, it is assumed that Billy may have been Tom's manager for his many restaurants and saloons around town. Now, Tom becomes the mayor of Storyville because he was able to walk in both worlds. The world of upper class, proper, rich, and of course, white. And he was also able to be in the vice world because he never forgot where he came from as a poor immigrant that grew up hawking papers. Because of this, he was able to have friends in high places, but also friends in very low places. He was able to pull a lot of strings and run the area now called Storyville. So now that you have the backstory of Tom, we should go introduce you to him. Like I said, Tom has something for you, and it's important you have it for visiting. Plus, Carnival season starts soon. You are going to need it. Welcome to the Arlington Annex. Walking in, you're greeted with a lively scene. A jazz band is playing on the stage. The air is thick with smoke that the people are scattered around who are smoking their cigars and pipes. One hand with their pipe, the other holding their drinks, chatting with their fellow male companions. Following your guide, he leads you up to the bar. You grab yourself a drink and take a sip. Sazeracs. It goes down stiff. A hand lands on your shoulder. Tom, how are ya? Your guide says. After introductions, Tom and Billy hand you over a little book that has a red, shiny letters written across it. Blue books. You're going to need these if you're going to survive Carnival season. Folding it open, you read. What is the good of living if you can't have a good time? Or as the proverb goes, live while you have a chance. You will be dead a long time. Now, the only way to get next to all the good things is to pay particular attention to what this pamphlet has to say. Don't be misguided by touts or gold bricks mansions, but look for whatever you desire in this book. This little book contains all the sporting houses in the Tenderloin district, both Storyville and Anderson County. Now, to know you are in Storyville, we will give you the boundary, which is as follows. North Basin to North Robertson, Custom House to St. Louis, this is Storyville. Anderson County, Old Tenderloin is Custom House Street to St. Peter, Delphine to Rampart Street. The names in this book constitute the Tenderloins 400, one of the grandest sporting societies in existence today, including the popular Astoria and Arlington. Attention! To tell a landlady from a border, their names have been printed in capital letters. The stars on the side of the landlady's names indicate a first-class house where the finest of women and nothing but wine is sold. The letter B on the side of a name indicates a house where beer is sold. The number 69 is the sign of a French house. The Jew will be known by a J. Wishing you a good time while making your rounds. I remain yours, Billy News. Let's talk about blue books. I saw you read the introduction, so I'm sure you are getting the idea of what a blue book is all about. But let me fill you in on the missing pieces. Okay, so blue books are for people like you. Travelers, newbies, guests, tourists. Anyways, the new editions of blue books come out right before Carnival season, so your copy is the most up to date to keep you in the know of what houses are on the up and up. Now, it doesn't mean if you stray from this book that you won't be safe, but it also means that if you stray from this book, it isn't guaranteed that you will be safe. Although there are other versions of the directory within the district, the blue books become the most popular and most distributed. It was also talked about within the mascot, giving it its own air of credibility. It is believed that the Daily Sun is also and may have had a hand in printing the books. So the idea of the Blue Book is something that went far beyond New Orleans and their district. The idea had been around for years before and still exists in some forms today, aka the Kelley Blue Book. Their purpose is to be a directory. In Storyville's case, it was a directory for the ladies working within the district. The district was jam-packed with women selling their wares, so for a visitor, it could be very overwhelming and nerve-wracking to navigate the world of Storyville. That's where Billy News comes back into play. Now, Billy Strove has never come out and said that he was the one and the same of Billy News. However, it's pretty well-known secret that Billy Strove was behind the publication and distribution of the Blue Books of Storyville. Guidebooks have been something that the district had been attempting almost from the start of the district. However, the past books didn't have the funding behind them like Billy's News Blue Books will. Around February 1900, the first edition of the Blue Book was launched. New editions came out early, right before Carnival season. They would be stocked in bars, saloons, and even cabbies would pass them out. It had all the information that visitors would need to feel calm about making their decision on what kind of fun they wanted for the evening. So why did these blue books become the legend they are today? Well, that would be because Billy News, aka Billy Strove, and Tom Anderson, of course. Billy was a police reporter, so he already had connections to the writing and printing scene. Tom had money and connections to the district and the saloons within. So it was kind of the perfect combo. On top of that, Billy and Tom had connections with the women within the district to know the ins and outs from their point of view. It's important to note that not all the ladies and houses were listed within the blue books. Crib girls and cribs were excluded from the blue books. So even though the blue books that were preserved through the years gives you a glimpse of the women who worked within the district, it can't and will never be able to give you the entire story. Now, there were at least 10 editions officially printed and circulated throughout the entire duration of Storyville. Although each edition varies in color, ads, and some women who came and went within the years, the core of it remains the same. Now, the cover of most blue books would always have an advertisement for the French balls that were hosted through Carnival season. This allowed historians to place and date a lot of the editions of blue books. The introduction always pretty much stated what you have already read, letting you know what this book contains and the point of the directory. In the second edition and all the following would add a warning throughout the book that stated, "This book is not mailable." This would be in compliance with the Comstock Law that went into effect in 1873. The Comstock Law was a bunch of federal acts that were passed by the U.S. government that eventually also had a Parent Act put into place for suppression of trade in the circulation of obscene literature and articles of immoral use. Although the blue books never actually contained any vulgar or in-your-face with what was actually being sold, the blue book still fell under the category. So it was not something you could mail around for the fear that it would corrupt. The blue books were full of ads of not just women and houses of Storyville, but also packed full of things that you might need during and after your trip through the district. Most of the ads were of the popular liquor of the time, like Green River whiskey ad stating, "Green River, the whiskey without a headache. The highest type of distilled art in an unbroken record of victories in every competition entered. Highest awards, Paris Expedition, 1904, Legion Belgium Expedition, 1095, Portland Expedition, 1905, for 9 years consistently, and now the official whiskey of all U.S. Marine hospitals, and used by them exclusively, without a headache, without rival, without substitute, pure, wholesome, unadulterated." Or, like the ad from Forbidden Fruit that read, "A new and exquisite cordial, more delicious than the nectar of the gods, more palatable and beneficial than any other after-dinner liqueur known to the epicure. A marvelous blending of the juice of the finest selected grapefruit and the best old cognac fine champagne. The native fragrance of the former with its remarkable health properties, plus the purest product of sound, ripe grapes, and genuine French methods. Forbidden fruit, yet not forbidden. It's a delicacy of flavor. Its piquancy, its stimulating qualities are welcomed at every banquet board and formal dinner, and every exclusive home social. And after dinner cordial that sounds alone in a class created by itself. A cordial that's fairest women may clink to the pairing toast and enjoy as never before to the last golden drop. A perfect cordial that loosens the connoisseur's tongue of praise and confirms all that the mind can fancy." Other ads included the prime cigar brands, or even lawyers, just in case things get a little too wild on the night. Other ads included the prime cigar brands, or even lawyers, just in case things got a little too wild on your night in Storyville. Or you may be worried about venereal diseases, even though the ladies in the upper houses took major steps in keeping themselves safe and clean. Still, VD is something you had to be cautious of. So it wasn't uncommon to see ads for quote-unquote VD cures like this one. When troubled with a leak, use the famous number 7. Specifies a marvelous success with gonorrhea and gout. Cures in 3 days. or even adds that hint at the darker and seedier side of Storyville with ads for a private detective. Smith's private detective agency at 309 St. Charles. Legitimate detective work in all of its branches, watchmen for all occasions. Collections attended to find the fire, consult Frank W. Smith. You can't help but notice most of the saloons and restaurants that are being advertised would be those owned by Tom C. Anderson. The House of Sport, the Arlington Cafe and Restaurant, 110, 112, and 114 North Rampart Street. Private dining rooms, upstairs, nothing but the best of edibles, liquors, and wine handled. Tom Anderson Proprietor, always open. Or talk of the town, Tom Anderson Stag Phone, Maine, 1686, 712 Garrior Street, opposite of St. Charles Hotel. No matter the edition you may find in your hands, it's evident that Tom had a part in the publishing of them, as they were riddled with many ads that directed you towards Tom and his many businesses within the district. However, it's clear that the real attraction and purpose of this book is the many ladies and houses listed within the book. Although each edition varied slightly from each other, most Blue Book editions had the preface, the introduction, and then the main house spreads. Most of the editions would have a full spread of Jose Arlington's brothel, which included pictures. Her house and pictures of her brothel were featured in several of the true editions of Blue Books. Knowing what you do now about the men behind the Blue Books, it makes sense as Tom Anderson was close to Jose Arlington. And though their relationship isn't fully public and may be a bit of a mystery to history, it's clear that he liked her. In fact, Tom Anderson kind of was a ladies' man and had several affairs within the world and with the queens of Storyville throughout his life. When it wasn't Arlington, it was Helene Burt, and Jellyware Morton was known to say, Helene Burt was on the corner of Custom House and Basin Street, next door to Tom Anderson's saloon. Tom Anderson was the king of the district and ran the Louisiana legislature, and Helene Burt was supposed to be his old lady. Hers was no doubt one of the best playing places in the city, and I thought I had a very bad night when I made under $100. Later, around 1910, he will meet a woman named Gertrude Dix, a beautiful 29-year-old that captivated Tom. Eventually, he will make her his manager for many of his properties throughout New Orleans. She will also be his partner for the remainder of his life. Anyways, back to the Blue Books. Past the full spread of the madams or the houses, you will find the directory for all the ladies who made their living within Storyville that they deemed trustworthy. They will be listed out names, addresses, like a phone book. Okay, so Blue Books changed ever so slightly from edition to edition. Like from edition to edition, some of the ways the ladies were distinguished changed. Capital letters for madam, oct for octoroons, W for white, C for color. Some editions through the years omit and change slightly the way the ladies are separated. However, the same idea was somehow conveyed from edition to edition. Something that can always be counted on when it comes to the Blue Books, though, was the typos, the lack of editing, so mistakes on spelling and or pictures being put in through the incorrect person, which makes for which makes it for a difficult time for historians. However, no matter what edition lands in your hand, it puts the stranger on proper grade or path as to where to go and be secure. Okay, keep your blue book on you because that is going to become very handy for you. Carnival season is upon us, and you have been formally invited to the ball of two well-known gentlemen. Tom C. Anderson has the right to invite you to the ball of two well-known gentlemen because he is one of the two well-known gentlemen. So let me give you a quick introduction to the second well-known gentleman. Frank Lamothe was another powerful man who owned businesses within the district. He was another white man who was able to toe the line between proper society and the darker side of vice of the city. He and Tom had a lot in common, and although never stated in history books, it's safe to assume that Tom and Frank knew of each other and were possibly close or friends. Frank Lamothe's businesses were listed within the Blue Books, and we've already established that Tom had a hand in the Blue Books. Because his money was being put towards them, he had a say on who was advertised, which meant to be in the Blue Books, especially as a competitor business, you had to be on the good side of Tom. Clearly, Frank and Tom had connections. So when the society balls of Carnival season became tradition and they excluded the powerful ladies of New Orleans, Frank felt that wasn't right. That was why the men of Storyville, men like Tom and Frank, were important to the story of Storyville because they recognized the ladies as they were. Powerful businesswomen of their time who had influence and money. So when the society balls started to exclude these women from joining, Frank decided that he would host his own ball for those of the underworld, including the women who worked within the underworld, the ones that took their fate into their own hands. We can assume that Frank and Tom were friends and maybe business partners in this sense, as the name of the ball kind of alludes to the fact that they were connected and worked together on this. The ball of two well-known gentlemen was a masquerade ball that gave the ability to walk into the world of sin without being seen. So this ball became very popular for those who lived in the world of sin and the high society types. Even the women of high society who could get a quick taste of what the underworld was like, safe and hidden behind a mask. The ball is a good time for all around. Sporty men, prostitutes, and even women of good standing came together for a night of drinking, dancing, and mingling. For the ladies of the night, the ball is still a working night, as this was the night for networking, getting in the proximity of men who had power, money, and influence that you wouldn't normally meet unless they ended up within their houses. Carnival season in general for the ladies was big, big, big. It's their busiest time of the year with all the visitors and the men of high society coming out to play and celebrate. So the sporting ladies loved Carnival season and they looked forward to it yearly. Plus, think of all the money they made nightly throughout the season. Most of the madams and houses would hire part-time workers who would just work Carnival season, making sure that their houses were able to accommodate the increase in business during this time. There are ladies who come into town just to work carnival season, make their money, and then go back to their home, none the wiser. Part-time workers and seasonal employees weren't something that just happened for carnival season. Ladies would come and go into the district to supplement their income and then go home quite often, actually. The ball of two well-known gentlemen weren't the only balls that were hosted as the balls of the underworld. French balls have become very common within the district. The name French alluded to the fact that they were those who weren't afraid of the sinful side of life. Another popular one that also had been advertised within the Blue Books, making it deemed worthy by Tom Anderson, was the CCC Club Ball. However, none were as prestigious as the two well-known gentlemen. All right, so now that you know a little bit about the ball of two well-known gentlemen, let's get ready to go. You seem to have made a good impression on Tom, so that leaves you in good position to make it into any house with any lady you may want. The ball will help you make your first choice, as you will meet a lot of high-class ladies tonight. Arriving at the ball, you've changed into your best attire, and the energy within the air matches the jazz flowing through the doors. You take a quick look at the Blue Book within your pocket. Already you have a few houses and names you're interested in. Your goal tonight is to meet them and be graced with their presence. And that, my friends, is where we are going to end part 2 of Storyville. But don't worry, I'll be back for part 3 very, very soon, and you aren't going to want to miss it. I have some ladies that are eagerly waiting for your company. Until then, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. You know all the things you're supposed to do on whichever platform you are joining us on. And I will see you when I see you. Until then, goodbye.
I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh, that. I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh, that. I'm gonna turn back my mattress and let you all my springs. I want you to find me, daddy, till the bell do ring. Oh, daddy, want you to